So I was thinking of making another video. So I'm sitting here on the Group W bench where they put you if you may or may not be moral enough to kill women and children after littering. So my knee was acting up like it does every day, and my dear Cheryl says, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "My knee." From what? From biking, running, and this story came to mind that I'm working, wrenching, and I always used to look at the end of the day at 4:30 what ROs, repair orders I had for the next day, and get everything ready, because I'm an idiot. But anyway, so I go to see the RO. It has replaced a turbocharger, right? Which they're fairly heavy. I don't know, they must weigh 20, 25 pounds, I guess. So I get the turbocharger off the shelf because I'm going to put it on my bench. So it'll be the first thing, it'll be all unwrapped, and I can put it on in the morning and start taking the old one off with the rest of the day that's left. So I go to take the turbocharger off the shelf. The bottom of the box falls apart, and the turbocharger lands on my second toe on my right foot. Holy shit, did that hurt? So I'm scared to take off my shoe, but when I did, my sock was all red, and now my toe is all deformed, like, because it must have broke the tip of the toe between the joint and the nail.
When did this happen?
Oh, I don't know, 20, 30, long
I
time
thought
ago.
you were.
No, a long time ago.
Oh, God.
I would never attempt to put a turbocharger on now. So I used to ride my bike a lot, and my normal ride was to the company I worked for. It was 13 miles one way. And if it was going to rain or something, I could get from Montvale to Hawthorne. I did it once in 30 minutes because it was going to pour. So then my regular other run would be on Saturdays, would be from Hawthorne, New Jersey to the Tappan Zee Bridge. I think it was Knickerbocker Road, down to the GW, over the GW, down to Central Park, back up over the GW, then back through the surface streets to Hackenscratch, past the record building and the sub that's anchored there, and then I'd come home. And that was it was a good run because there's stuff where you can get drinks everywhere you go on that run. So they put in Route 287, and it wasn't open yet up in Oakland and to Pequannock, I think. So it seemed to me the highway was all the way done. So I said that would be a great biking route. Nobody's on it yet. So off I go. And the difference between a ride from the GW and everything was that you're in surface streets and there's shade. On an interstate, there isn't any shade. So I'm driving along, and it was like a Saturday, I think, or Sunday. And all of a sudden, I'm feeling not good, really not good. Because I was dehydrating. And I'm like, now what am I going to do? You're out there all by yourself. There's no place in sight to get anything to drink. And now I'm starting to panic. So I shift into the granniest of granny gears. And I just start going slow. I get off at the first exit. And thank goodness there was a mom and pop fruit and vegetable stand there that sold cold drinks. So I had a couple of those, and that was okay. And then after that, I never went out without one of those Camelback things. You put on your back, and it has a long tube that comes around, and you can suck on it all day long. And it's like 40 ounces or something. So that was a good learning experience. And then my run at night when I was working in Morristown is I would go up to Goffle Hill, and it would take me, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, but it's a straight uphill, whatever that name of it. It's a really steep hill and ends up in Wyckoff. And you could go up, and you get a good little workout in the wintertime because you couldn't really go out. So I'm coming back through Hawthorne in the town part, and I'm riding on the sidewalk because the street, Goffle, whatever road that is, or I don't remember the name of the road, it's too busy. So I go past an alley, and a guy comes out with his little kid, went to see the pediatrician, and the guy hits me on the bike and knocks me into the road. And the guy gets out of the car and he's wigging out. He's like, I'm really, really sorry. It was a complete accident. I shouldn't have been on the sidewalk, and that was the cause of it. And he couldn't really look. It was an alley that, he couldn't see until he got out. So I'm a little banged up, but I'm okay. So somebody passes by and they must have called the cops. So this cop shows up, and this guy's, now he's even wigging out more. And so the cop goes, what happened? I told him, I said, I shouldn't have been on the sidewalk. And the guy's, he was worried about his son, taking him to the pediatrician. So I say to the cop, I go, because a lot of times when that happens, you don't feel the injury till 2 or 3 days later. So I said to the cop, if I don't feel bad and you don't hear from me, can you just take care of it? He goes, if I don't hear from you, I'll rip it up in 3 days. So I told the guy that, and we were lucky. But one time I was coming down Goffle Hill, and I look at this lady. I did eye contact with her. I was going to go straight, and she didn't have blinker on. And I looked at her. She looked at me. And the light changed green. I apparently thought she was going to go straight. She deliberately ran into me, knocked me off my bike, and just drove away. So, like...
Really? I don't think you ever told me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so, it was interesting. I used to love to ride my bike. I used to love to run, but now my right knee is shot because I pushed on running and everything on my right side, even though I'm a lefty. So, and then I had to take the previous video down because I didn't want that to fall into the wrong hands, as it were. So,
what are you talking about?
I had made a bunch of videos that were long and detailed, but I didn't want to name names, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
So, some of the stories I could tell you, you can believe it or not. So, one of the guys I worked with, his daughter was 18, and she graduating high school, and he bought her a brand new Toyota. And she went to a graduation party at one of her friend's house. And she was a new driver, and there was no alcohol involved. She just was a new driver. And the friend's house, they had a nice house in Saddle River, and it had a pond on it. So she loses control of the car, or didn't put the parking brake on. I don't remember the details. But anyway, it goes up to the dashboard into the pond on a brand new car. So in other words, all the dashboard instruments have been underwater.
Oh, jeez.
So we get the job of figuring out how to fix this. So we go over there. They already pulled it out of the water. We get it towed to where I worked. And this guy my friend's uncle I worked with, and this guy is who I learned 90% of the stuff. His attitude was, if some dummy built it, this dummy can fix it. And he was right. And he always would start out with, always check something simple, because it's generally something simple first. So I don't know what we're going to do with this car. So we take out the entire interior, the seats, the rugs, everything, and we open up as much of the dashboard as we can. We had these big fans at the shop. They were probably like 4 feet high, and we had 3 of them. And we blew the fans on the car 24/7 for 2 weeks. Changed the fluids, of course. All the fluids were changed. And I think the car had like maybe 200 miles on it. And we put it all back together. Lo and behold, it worked. It was fine. That was patience. And so, another time, we moved from one building to another, and we had an air conditioner that was given to us. And we never had a break room with an air conditioner in it before. So, our boss tells me and Johnny to put the air conditioner in the cinder block, cut a hole in the cinder block wall. And so, okay. So when Johnny didn't want to do something, he didn't give a shit. So we put the air conditioner in the wall, and all you see is the cord go whoosh as the air conditioner hits the ground on the outside.
That's not good.
Not good at all. So
I'm no expert, but
we bring it back in and put it in the way it was supposed to be. Plug it in and turn it on. So just then our boss walks in, and he goes, "Oh, great, guys, you got the air conditioner in. How does it work?" And he goes to turn it on, and he goes, "Oh, it must have got hurt when we moved." And he bought another one. We got out of that one. So,
and you just stood there.
I was trying not to laugh. Trying not to laugh. So, I just talked to my friend Bart, whose father passed last night, and it brought back some high school memories. So I went to Glen Rock High School in Jersey, and so me and my friend Scott, who's now a retired state trooper in New Hampshire or somewhere, we were big Then Came Bronson fans. And we didn't do any work in school, and his saying was, "What do you want from me, Bill? Blood?" So we were in the dummy classes, so we were in there with all the, like, 10th graders. And so we're in some kind of math class, and this kid Monahan was just, we shouldn't have done this. It was wrong to do. And I'm the first to admit it, and I feel bad about it. We were on the second floor in that one wing, it's by the courtyard, I don't remember. And they had small windows. They were like this big, and they folded out. And we decided, it was in between classes, and we decided we're going to take Monahan and pretend to throw him out the window. He wouldn't fit anyway, but it was stupid kid shit. So we pick him up, me and Scott, and he's flailing around like crazy, and he kicks the window out, the glass. Oh, shit. So,
It's not good.
no, so we were going to get suspended, right? So the teacher walks in, and just as she walks in and sees everything, this kid in the front seat, can't remember his name, Stu something or other.
Oh, I remember this one.
He goes, "I got this." And we're like, "What?" She sees it. She completely flips out. Completely. I mean, she's screaming, yelling, her face is red. She was young, too, like 25. And "Who did this?" And he just raises up his hand. "Go to the principal's office." He looks at us and goes, "I wanted to get 3 days off." Good for you, bud. Oh, shit. So many things happened in high school. We were the kids that, if anybody remembers this, we were the kids that drove the 2 cars into the courtyard and cut up big tire gouges in the courtyard grass. That was us. This is me and my friend Bart and Kenny. And we never got caught, though, so it's all good. All good construction. So I think I told you about this friend of a friend who needed a water pump in her car. She had a Thunderbird, a 77 Thunderbird. And she hated all guys because the guy just walked out from her and took all the money and everything, so she didn't have any do-re-mi to pay. So I show up there one day because my friend's, yeah, that'd be great, huh? My friend's girlfriend asked me to go over and see her, so I go over, and she's very cynical of everything. And so I look at the water pump, and it's leaking, it's wobbling, everything ready. So she goes, "How much will it be?" I said, whatever it was, $25 for a water pump in those days, I think. So I said, whatever the water pump is, your friends told me that you don't have that much money now. So she's still looking at me very cynical. She goes, "Oh, I'll buy the water pump." I said, "No, I'll buy it because the place I dealt with, King Auto Parts in Hohokus, if the water pump went bad, I could get another one because they knew me and I bought all my stuff from them." So I go over to her house one Saturday. How long does it take to put in a water pump? An hour? I don't know. So I get done and I go to leave. And you could tell she thought that I was going to want some kind of sex from her. And I didn't. I just wanted to, oh wait, that's worse with that. I didn't. So anyway, I don't know whatever happened because I never heard back from her. I gave her the paperwork and I told her to keep it in her car, and then if anything happens, give me a buzz. So, this is now the time when I'm starting to go to people's houses and repair cars. So I run into this guy. I don't know how I met him. His name was Fred Strout, and he was a muckety muck at IBM in Franklin Lakes or wherever the hell it is up there. And he had like a 60 something, 66, 67 Mustang, and he had electrical problems with it. And I always liked electrical stuff because it's like a good puzzle to figure it out. So I'm over there one day, and he had like a couple daughters, and so the one comes out in a bikini, and I'm like, "Oh, how you doing?" and everything. And so she was up on a balcony, and then she was going to go outside, I guess, and sit in the chaise lounge or something, get a tan. So she has a bikini bathing suit on, and she was a good-looking girl. And I said, and she should have been like graduating or something. And I said, "So you're going to graduate like a month away?" It was May or something. She's like, "No, I missed the whole semester." I said, "What happened?" Oh, that was the balcony part. She was in a balcony, and I don't know what happened, if she was smashed or high or something. She fell out of the balcony onto a glass coffee table. And she said, "I got like 100 and some stitches." And I'm like, bikini, no scar, right? So she pulls up the ass on one ass cheek, and she had like a half moon scar on the one ass cheek. And I mean, it was nasty. The guy that sewed it up obviously wasn't a plastic surgeon. But one thing led to another with Fred. He got divorced. Then I ended up working on his wife's car. And one day, I'm there, and she worked somewhere. She had to now that they lived in Allendale. And I'm on a creeper under her car. She had a Chrysler K car, and I'm doing something. And she comes over to me and straddles the creeper with both legs, and I'm under it. I can only see like her calves. And I'm like, holy shit, what's this about? I just stayed under there until she finally got, I guess, knew I wasn't going to come out when she was standing there. But and then the guy across the street had a bunch of Datsun, some kind of Datsuns, those little ones. I forget what they were in those days. And he had Sentras, Datsun Sentras, Nissan Sentras. And he had a bunch of them for a courier service, so I got that business, which was good. He had like 5 or 6 of those, like running for like mail or documents to people. And like I told you in the last video, if you saw it, one thing led to another, and it just freaking took off. It took off. I mean, I brought this guy in with me, Paul, and we started to go around to people's houses and do anything. Clutches, did a lot of clutches, a lot of heads, engine swaps, and he didn't know anything when he came, but I showed him how to, do it the way I wanted to do it the way so you wouldn't get a comeback. And we got so good that we ended up pulling this guy's engine in a T-Bird. One guy would go high, one guy would go low, one guy would undo the motor mounts, the other guy would go underneath, take the cross member out, unhook the speedometer cable, yank it out, engine and training as once, go back, put it back together on the ground, engine and training go back in. We showed up at this guy's house 8 o'clock in the morning. It was driving down the road at like 2:30 that afternoon. We got really, really quick at it, and plus I had an air compressor in the trunk of my car, so we always had the use of air tools. And that makes the job go incredibly, incredibly faster. So we did this all the time, and now I'm finding out that I'm forgetting stuff that I knew, like back of my hand. I took the torches out the other day. There was a go-kart, an old go-kart frame in the shed, and I figured I'd take the torches out, and I can cut this go-kart up and make something with it, because it's really heavy-duty steel. So I get the torches out, I turn the oxygen and settling on, and I'm lighting it, flicking it with the striker, and nothing's happening. And I'm like, oh, this torch must be clogged, the tip or something. Clean the heck out of the tip. Still nothing. It turns out I turned on the oxygen and acetylene, never turned on the acetylene regulator. As soon as I did that, it's going okay. So me and Cheryl are out there, and I got this crazy idea. Why don't I can cut this thing up, re-weld it back together, and then mount it on the bench in the backyard as a barbecue rotisserie. Oh, kids, it works out great. That's what I gotta go. I gotta go to Lowe's and get a piece of diamond plate and put it in there. I might do that after this video. But we're having a lot of fun out there in the garage, and me and Paul, he made a ton of money. I didn't realize it until he told me that he bought his first house with the money that he made with me and him working together, but we worked our ass off. And then we got to go down to a place where my friend Bart was renting a shop for his vans, for his business. And so Richie was the sole proprietor of this place. He had a machine shop, rewound electric motors for the county, Hackensack, and it was a machine shop for electric motors. But he gave us carte blanche for everything. We could use the safety clean, bench to clean stuff out, clean parts out, and he had lathes down there and drill presses, and he didn't care if whatever we did, he was fine with him, and he was a great guy, great sense of humor, great guy. So, and I sit down there and talk to him Saturday mornings before Paul came in. Paul lived at that point up in Vernon, I think. So I always visited Richie before Paul came down, and he'd just sit there and wind motors and smoke his cigarettes, and he was happy as shit. So one day he had a steak body truck, dually in the back, and you hear the truck start up. Boom. So now you hear like, wah, and he goes, Bill, take a look outside. And so the truck is going, the motor's going like, wah, and the truck's going like this, wah, like really slow. He goes, you know who's driving that? I said, no, that's my dumbass kid. Doesn't know how to drive stick. But Richie, he didn't care about anything. He was just happy to have the kid there and everything. So I guess a week or two go by and the kid's driving the truck, and Richie comes over to our side one day and says, can you put a clutch in the truck? Like, you could see that coming a mile away, right? So it was a truck transmission. It was heavy, and Richie was a great, great guy. And I said to Paul, this is on us, everything. We're going to buy the parts and the labor and everything, and we're not going to charge Richie jack shit. He was that much of a cool guy. So we put the clutch in, and Richie would go home half days on Saturday, like 1 o'clock. He'd change his work clothes, he'd get in street clothes, and he'd go home. So he comes to the shop, and we had already driven it, test driven and everything. Everything's good. And he starts reaching in his pocket with 10s and 20s and 50s to pull out to pay us. I'm like, Richie, we're not taking your money. And he keeps peeling out more money. I go, no, your money's no good here. Your money's no good. So, finally I'm getting to the point where he's not listening to me, so I'm like, all right, Richie, fuck you. And then now he goes, this is a great story. Oh, so now it's fuck you, Richie, fuck you. You gotta know the guy. It was just a great, great guy, and he told us any day, you want to use the truck for anything, just feel free to take it. He gave us carte blanche with it. So you guys know my friend Bob Bosch, the chief, who always was a jump up and wonder where he's going to land kind of guy. So he calls me up one Sunday morning, the Sunday morning that he's moving from Clifton to Erskine Lakes. So he's all in a panic about how's he going to get a truck to move this stuff. Well, I said, Bob, you should have made a reservation, because all the trucks are rented on the weekends, because that's when everybody moves. So, you got to help me. So I'm like, all right. So I go down, I get Richie's truck, load all the stuff in the truck, drive it all the way up to Erskine Lakes, and gonna go home. And Bob goes, thanks. I go, what do you mean, thanks? You borrowed this guy's truck all day. I said, I'll fill it up with gas, but you got to get him something. Oh, what's he like? He liked that 25-year-old Chivas Scotch that comes in the velvet thing and all this other stuff. So, oh, that's really expensive. We just got free use of a truck. So we go to the liquor store, and it was expensive then. I guess it was maybe $35, $40. So I take it and go back down to the shop, put the truck in, write Richie a note. We used the truck over the weekend to help my friend move, and I said I filled it up with gas, but this is a token of appreciation for you letting us use the truck. So that was a Sunday. I didn't go back down there until Saturday. So I said, when I got back there, I said, did you get the Chivas? Oh, yeah. I said, did you like it? This is the kind of guy he was. No, I didn't drink it. I donated it to the church. They were going to have a raffle. So, people would pay more for it because the church would benefit. And Bob is another friend of mine that's... How do you describe this guy? I don't know. So many adventures with him. Me and him pull the engine out. His wife had like this Dodge Dart with a 318 Chrysler product engine. So we pull it, we bring it to the shop, bore the cylinders, new piston, the whole bit, right? So put it all back together, and he says there's a vibration in it. And he drove it all the time. I didn't really feel one when I drove it, but I didn't drive it all the time. So we're trying to figure out what the vibration is, because it's not in the engine. The engine was balanced. We did everything. So we figure out that it's the flex plate. That goes in between the transmission and the torque converter, I think, if I remember right. And so he goes, what are you doing tonight? And it's summer, it's hot. And I go, I always had plans at night because I was doing all this stuff on the side. Oh, you got to come up. I'm taking the trans out. All right, I said, all right, I'll be up as soon as I can. And he can't wait. So I just get up there just as he's about to yank the tranny on his back when the car's on jack stands. Well, he pulls the transmission out, and the torque converter falls out of the transmission. The torque converter is pretty heavy. 70 pounds maybe? I don't remember. And the ring gear lands on his face and puts this gigantic mark. Plus it was mad hot because he drove it home. So now I'm halfway under there trying to get the rest of the transmission off of him and then get the torque converter off his face. And he's wiggling around like a spider under there, trying, because it's hot. Not only did he get really cut with the ring gear, but he got burnt like hell because it was so hot. So we get him out, and he's like, ah. So the lady that's next to him was a friend of his. Bob, are you all right? You want a face cloth with ice? Yeah. So she gets the face cloth, gets it wet, fills it with ice, comes down and goes like this on his face. Whack! And he's like, ah! Oh, man, we still talk about that one. So he's a great guy, and he does a lot of things, but he does them differently than everybody else. So we had so much fun together, me and him, and now he's not doing too good. He's in Florida, and I miss him. The chief, good guy all around. So I told a lot of this stuff the last time, the ball joint story, the tree story, the going to Florida story, trying to think of some new material that we can put on here. I think I told you a lot of the stuff that me and Paul did. This one is Tova Traeger. All right. She was a friend of Bart's wife. So she needed a bunch of stuff. She had like a Toyota Starlet, and she rented the house next to that. There's a gas station, convenience store, luncheonette on Saddle River Road, and I forget, you make a right there, and it takes you up to like Woodcliff Lake. No, you make a left, it takes you to Woodcliff Lake. Make a right, goes to Montvale. So she worked with Bart's wife somewhere, wherever she was working at the time. So she needed a condenser, she needed a wheel bearings pack, she needed brakes, she needed a bunch of stuff. So I go over there one night right after work, and she was only like maybe 20 minutes away. So first thing I figured I'd do is I'll take out the condenser and get that out first, and then I could drop it off at Warwick Radio in the morning and pick it up that night and put it back in. He did heliarcing. So I go to take the condenser out, and I'm pulling it. You had to wiggle it out around the radiator in a cowl. And she goes, "Would you like help pulling it?" And I was a wise guy, and I go, "Oh, I'd love some help pulling it." "I'm not like that. Don't talk to me like that again." Right? So
No sense of humor.
I'm minding my business, right? And she's got those terry cloth teeny tiny shorts on. You can believe this or not, but it happened. So I had a box, a miscellaneous box with cotter pins, everything that you need for these kind of things. So I packed the wheel bearings, and I always like to put in a new cotter pin. And normally what I'd do is I'd dump the box on the person's driveway and get what I needed out. I couldn't do this, it was a gravel driveway. So she goes, "What are you looking for?" I said, "I need a cotter pin for the 2 cotter pins for the back wheel bearings." She takes a shop rag like this. Now, I kid you not. Shop rag like this, right? She folds it up. She puts her back on the back of the car, on the door, and she spreads her legs out in front and crosses them. Puts the rag on her crotch. "Dump it here," she says. It's now 8 o'clock. I'm dead. I'm tired. I want to go. I dump it. I fish out 2 cotter pins from basically her pussy. And I put the cotter pin in, and I said to myself, "Did that just happen?" It did. And then she came over my house with some cartoons and a couple 6-packs, and I was too naive and too stupid to know that she was hitting on me.
Well, who wouldn't?
Oh, thank you, dear. That's very nice. Oh. And then Mike told you about his father-in-law and that instance, and he got emotional one night. Like, "What am I going to do if you ever leave, Bill?" I said, "Mike." And Mike he was a construction electrician. He lived in Midland Park, and good guy. And he had a Riviera, and his wife's name was Jackie. And I ended up starting to go over there. Air conditioning didn't work, so I fixed the air conditioning, and then I started doing all the stuff for his car. Originally he had a Datsun wagon, and then he bought a Volvo wagon, and she had this nice Riviera, and calls me up. "Jackie's car doesn't start." I said, "Okay." So I go over there, and the battery's dead. I jump it, charge the battery, and I do a load test, or, checking the circuits, and one circuit is a draw all the time. So that's what discharged the battery overnight. So I start pulling fuses to see which circuit is live all the time. So it's the courtesy light, dome light, the lights on the doors circuit. So I close the doors, and I hit the button in the doors, and the lights on all that's going out, or they're all going out. So I'm like, what else is on this circuit? It turns out there's 2 ashtray and lighters on each side of the back seats. Well, his little daughter had the car seat in the passenger side. She was like 2, I think. And
Here, Daddy.
yeah, so I look at why is there a drawer on this? So I opened the ashtray on where the kiddie seat was, and she had took like a lollipop, like a Tootsie Pop, and ate a little bit of it, shoved it in the ashtray, and then closed the lid. So the cigarette lighter was always pulling. So I take it out, bingo, everything's 0. He just comes home. "Did you find out what was wrong, Bill?" I said, "Yeah, your daughter jammed a lollipop in this ashtray and kept the cigarette lighter going." And he must have had a bad day, because he just looks at me and goes, "Are they all bitches?" Like, "Mike, that's your daughter, man. Chill out." Some of the stuff was even funnier than the motor crap, you know? I went to, the Charlie Brown cartoons? Wah, 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 you never see the mother? Well, I went to some guy's house, and the house it was like clean, but it was a wreck. It was just clothes everywhere, and I never met her. I never saw her, and I went there a few times. All she would be at the background yelling at her husband. And it was just like that. Wah, wah, and he'd be like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, wah, 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 wah. And I didn't want to meet her. After that, I didn't want to meet her. Oh, man. Some fun stuff. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. This one I kept everybody's name the hell out. Arresting officer's name, anything pertaining to and about the crime. Oh, this is good. Forgot this one. I'm working with this guy, Dick. He was the former chief of police of Edgewater. And he had the biggest comb over I ever saw. I mean, it must have took him 4 years to grow it on this side so he could comb it over to that side. So he says, and he was Irish guy, forgot his last name. And he lives in Edgewater, right? So, and they didn't have big plots in that town. There's small little lots. The houses are close together. And he says, can you come over? I want to put a patio in and help me dig out. It went up a hill, his backyard, so we could make it level. I said, yeah, that's not a problem. It's just hard work, but you could do it. So we start digging. It's in the morning, and we're wheelbarrowing the dirt away. And now it's like 10 o'clock. It's getting really, really hot. And his wife's name was Eileen. I said, could you ask Eileen to get us some water? So, he asked her. Well, she comes out with about this size glasses of water. I go, Dick, we gotta get like a picture of it. Eileen, got it. Oh man, Jimmy, if you're watching this, I got a Mr. Berrien story for you. Mr. Berrien, great guy. He lived 2 houses away from my friend Jim. So he had a Ford Fairmont, and he let me keep my Ford in his driveway for 20 years, a long time. Never got mad. And he didn't charge me 10 cents. So he.
Did you work on his car?
All the time.
There you go.
All the time. So he'd call me up, and you gotta come up. Every hill to him was Snake Hill. I don't know where he was. I think Skyline Drive in Oakland there. I'm going up Snake Hill. And the car's going shh, shh, shh. And Margaret's got the rosary beads out. And I'm saying, Margaret, put those rosary beads away. It's Mr. Berrien.
I never knew where that line came from.
Yeah, so I go over and fix whatever was wrong, and he'd sit there, not to watch, just to keep you company. And he was a riot, this guy. It was just funny as hell. He was a wire lather in his day, and he'd shoot beech nut tobacco, and drove my father crazy because he'd take the tobacco out and put it on my father's lawn. So his wife, Mrs. Berrien's, coming up the stairs one day from the basement, and we're sitting in the garage. You could see her. So she's going, with the laundry basket, one step, then she's taking a step, one step, taking a step. And he goes, I thought he was going to help her. Margaret, how many times I tell you, when you got a heavy wash, you make 2 trips. Oh, but he was something. I was a kid, 4th of July. I'm like 14 years old, and I'm bumming. I have no firecrackers this year. And I'm just driving my Stingray around the block, moping around. And Mr. Berrien calls me over. What's the matter, kid? What's the matter? He called everybody a fire watch. I said, Mr. Berrien, I don't have any firecrackers this year. And he goes, why are you riding around on the street? I said, I don't know. Next time you ride around, ride on the sidewalk, okay? Okay, he's a nice guy. Go past his house on the sidewalk. He lived on a corner. Right in front of me, 3 packs of firecrackers that he put there. That's the kind of guy that he was. He was a great guy. I love you, Mr. Berrien. I miss you, man. What a cool guy. A couple of people in the neighborhood were very, very cool. Jim's uncle lived across the street. Great guy. His wife also. Guy that lived next to me was the guy that broke up the Weather Underground conspiracy to blow up the Liberty Bell, the Statue of Liberty. And he was on television. He was an FBI agent. A guy that lived across the street was the CFO of a Madison Avenue advertising firm. Guy that lived down the street was the head of Raleigh Bike, or not Schwinn, it was Raleigh Huffy, maybe. It might have been Huffy. And a lot of these people who lived in the neighborhood were mover and shakers. And like I told, who was I talking to about that the other day? The guy that lived down at the last house on the dead end on our street was Mr. Hufftailing, who came up with Magic Fingers, that thing that shakes the bed. You put some quarters in, it shakes the bed if you're in a motel. So he was a pots and pans salesman, and his wife, was the den mother of my Cub Scout troop. And we always had the meetings in their garage. And one day we had a meeting, and there was a switchboard in his garage, and there was a switchboard operator actually pushing and pulling the things in. Well, we didn't know what's going on. We're like 11, 10, something like that. Turns out that that Magic Fingers thing took off. And so he was a pots and pans salesman, and he put all the literature on garbage day out at the curb. The magazines to show all the different, and it was like a pile. It was probably like 8 feet long and maybe 4 feet high, and he placed it out there all neat. But once we kids got into it, it was a freaking eyesore. But anyway, we had to go back and clean it up, and he bought this $100,000 house in like '62. And that was unheard of in Franklin Lakes. He didn't buy it; he built it. It was the first heated pool I ever heard of. It was in, and then people started to rip him off, and he started to fight it, and one thing led to another, and you can't really fight that when people are trying to rip off your copyright, because it's too hard to do, as he found out. And I talked to John L., his oldest son. John L. lived in Franklin Lakes too, and he said he's an unhappy guy, bitter guy, living on a houseboat in Florida. And then he died. He was on television too. I think he might have been on 60 Minutes or something like that. And I didn't keep up with anybody except John L., because he lived on Pullis, or some main drag up there that I'd have to drive by all the time to get anywhere. And yeah, an interesting neighborhood, very interesting neighborhood. Mr. Osborne, Dr. Osborne, actually had rabbits in his backyard. He had a rabbit coop because he was injecting them with. He was a cancer researcher. I guess at one of the colleges or universities in the city, and he was injecting them with cancer, trying to find a cure for cancer. That was way back. That was probably '62. Again, all this stuff I do a timeline. Was it before or after Kennedy? And all that stuff was before Kennedy. Yep. Interesting neighborhood. Yep, that's all that's coming to mind right now. Yeah, plus I've been on for too long, 43 minutes is shown. So I hope everybody enjoyed it. And remember, just give me some comments, or like it or dislike it, so I know if I'll keep making them if people are interested. And remember, subscribe, because I'm getting a lot of views with this. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.